Imagine waking up one morning to discover that the most powerful people on Earth, presidents, prime ministers, billionaires, celebrities, and crime lords, had been secretly hiding their wealth in the shadows for decades. Not through some elaborate conspiracy theory, not through rumor or speculation, but through 11.5 million documents. Actual files, actual names, actual proof. On April 3, 2016, the world learned that the global financial system had a hidden floor, a secret basement, where the ultra-wealthy disappeared their money, their taxes, and their accountability, while the rest of us paid every cent we owed. The question isn't just how they did it. The question is, who knew? How long had it been going on? And why did it take one anonymous whistleblower to expose what governments had apparently refused to see? The Panama Papers isn't just a financial scandal. It's arguably the greatest exposure of global corruption in modern history. One leak, one source, one law firm at the center of it all, and suddenly the curtain was pulled back on a shadow economy so vast, so deeply woven into the fabric of wealth and power that investigators struggled to comprehend its scale. More than 140 world leaders were connected to the files. 12 sitting or former heads of state were directly implicated. The total amount of money flowing through this hidden world? Estimated in the trillions, but this story doesn't begin with politicians or billionaires. It begins with a single encrypted message from someone who simply called themselves John Doe. The message from nowhere. In late 2014, a journalist at the German newspaper Deutsche Zeitung received an anonymous tip. The source offered documents. Not a few dozen. Not a few hundred. Millions of them. Financial records stretching back decades from one of the world's most secretive law firms, Mossack Fonseca, based in Panama. The journalist, Bastian Obermeier, accepted. What followed was over a year of encrypted communication with someone whose identity remains unknown to this day. John Doe never met the journalists in person, never revealed a face, a name, a location. They simply said they wanted the world to know the truth, and that they feared for their life. The documents were eventually shared with the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. Over 400 reporters across 80 countries began working simultaneously, in total secrecy, to verify, translate, and map what they had received. For an entire year, one of the biggest secrets in journalism sat quietly, waiting. The firm that built the shadows. Mossack Fonseca wasn't a household. That was precisely the point. Founded in Panama in 1977 by Jurgen Mossack and Ram Fonseca, the firm specialized in creating offshore shell companies' legal structures in low-tax jurisdictions designed to hold assets while concealing who actually owned them. On paper, it was legal. In practice, it was a machine. A machine for making money invisible. The firm operated in over 40 countries. It had created more than 200,000 shell companies over the course of its existence. Its clients ranged from legitimate business people seeking tax efficiency to dictators, arms dealers, and drug traffickers seeking complete financial anonymity. Shell companies have no employees, no offices, no visible operations. Just a name on paper and a bank account behind a and Mossack Fonseca had become extraordinarily good at building those doors and locking them. But the locks, it turned out, were about to fail. Names that shook the world. When the Panama Papers dropped on April 3, 2016, the reaction was immediate and global. Within hours, the names began to surface. The Prime Minister of Iceland, Sigmundur Gunnlaugsson, was linked to an offshore company he had failed to declare, one that held bonds in Iceland's failed banks during the very financial crisis he had been elected to resolve. Within days, he resigned. Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko, King Salman of Saudi Arabia, associates of Vladimir Putin connected to a $2 billion web of hidden transactions, Lionel Messi, Jackie Chan, the relatives of at least 8 current and former members of China's ruling Politburo Standing Committee. The sheer breadth of it was staggering. These weren't obscure figures in distant countries. These were the people who wrote the laws, signed the treaties, and stood at podiums lecturing the public about economic fairness while routing their fortunes through jurisdictions their citizens had never heard of. And yet almost none of it was technically illegal. That was perhaps the most disturbing revelation of all. The system that was never meant to be seen. Here is where the story takes its darkest turn. Tax havens don't survive because powerful people break the rules. They survive because powerful people write the rules that way. Offshore finance is a legitimate industry. Governments know it exists. International banks facilitate it. Legal firms build it. Regulators in many cases look away. The Panama Papers didn't expose a criminal underground. They exposed something far more troubling: a legal architecture, constructed over decades, specifically designed so that wealth could flow upward while visibility flowed downward. The people at the bottom of the economic ladder pay taxes they cannot avoid. The people at the top paid teams of lawyers to ensure they never had to. Mossack Fonseca closed its doors in 2018. Jürgen Mossack and Ram Fonseca were arrested, released, and largely faded from public view. A handful of politicians resigned. A handful of investigations were opened. Some resulted in charges. Most quietly dissolved. The system itself still stands. John Doe, whoever they are, once released a public statement explaining why they did it. They wrote that inequality is not just economic, it is existential. That a world where the powerful play by different rules than everyone else is not a world that can sustain itself. The Panama Papers didn't bring down the global financial system, but they forced the world to see it clearly, perhaps for the first time. 11.5 million documents, one anonymous source, and a truth so large it took 400 journalists a full year just to begin understanding it. The money is still out there, hidden in accounts the public will never see, held by names the public may never know. And somewhere, John Doe is watching, hoping that this time the world stays awake long enough to do something about it.